Hey everyone, thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to be looking at the upcoming golden cross for Bitcoin, the major market mover within the cryptocurrency asset class. If you guys like this content, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified of future videos. If you want to discuss these videos and these charts with a lot of like-minded people, then check out my Telegram channel in the description below. We have around 1,600, pushing 1,700 members. So let's go ahead and jump in. So like I said, with Bitcoin, and we've covered this already with some other coins, this golden cross that's occurring. However, Bitcoin is the market mover. We've seen this time and time again. If Bitcoin is not doing well, or if it doesn't have a short-term history of doing well, a local positive movement, then the altcoin market will not be doing well. But the altcoin market has been doing well, most notably because of this fairly impressive run that Bitcoin has been on since the end of 2019. So we have this golden cross coming up in the next few days, and we want to get an idea of what does it mean in terms of the macro picture, and what could it mean, say, even in the short term. One of the interesting things that you'll notice is, and it's not always the case, but sometimes when you have these either golden cross when the 50-day goes above the 200-day, or a death cross when the 50-day goes below the 200-day, you'll see a short-term, kind of a short-term candle the opposite direction. So you can see here, back in October of 2019, we actually had a death cross, and right on that death cross, instead of going down, we actually saw a fairly impressive move up for Bitcoin. And you can see it basically occurred right when that death cross happened. But the bigger picture, though, is that we were still continuing our downward momentum. This was just basically confirming that we're still going down, and we're going to have to really take some time, accumulate in another region, and then start to move back up. So you can see, while there was a short-term move up, we continued our downward momentum. And a lot of these candles here are responsible for these mass liquidations you'll see, where people are shorting the market, and you'll see that, say, like $100 million of Bitcoin was liquidated due to these shorts being liquidated, essentially. So, and this is kind of one of these short-term traps that can sometimes happen. So remember, even with death crosses and golden crosses, that doesn't mean, there's nothing in this market is a sure thing, especially short-term moves. I mean, a lot of times these short-term moves are often irrational. They could be caused by a variety of factors, but the downward momentum is still in full effect. And until we really see an accumulation period, where we can go on to start to print higher highs, and see a golden cross, then typically death crosses are just bad news for the short term. Now we're about to print a golden cross. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we have to see a candle down? It doesn't mean we have to, but I would say be ready for it. One of the interesting things is in the last time we had a golden cross, if we go straight to the golden cross, you can see we had a candle down. And if we were to take a measured move, it's not a significant candle down, but if we were to just say take a move from right when this golden cross occurred downward, we saw a move of around negative 10% for Bitcoin. And a lot of people probably thought, okay, it's just, this golden cross doesn't mean anything. We're gonna keep heading down. But essentially, this is kind of the same thing. It's when people are potentially putting longs in the market and potentially leveraging out of their ears, and you'll see these candles, and you'll see $80 million liquidated. So you have to be careful when you're leveraging, and I've told people this too, because when you do leverage in this market, you're essentially stacking these other layers of risk. I mean, you're already taking a super risky asset of Bitcoin, and then you're stacking additional layers of risk. And it can be profitable for some people, if you really know what you're doing. But I think for the vast majority of people, it is not something that you really want to be doing, especially if you're not, if you're not studying the markets and really, have a feel for what's going on. And this is why, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be advertising places where, you can go, or I'm not going to be saying, okay, everyone should go to this exchange and do this just so I can get a few referrals. No, I mean, the point of this channel is to inform you of the general, the people that are kind of like me. We have other jobs, and we're interested in these macro level moves of the market. We're not going to be looking at trying to short with 5 times leverage in the hopes that we can make bank. If you want to do that, that's fine, but that's not what this channel is about. So I want to talk again. So we have this golden cross coming up. The last golden cross, we did see a move down, and currently with Bitcoin, we actually did just have a day where we did move down, and you can see if we take a move, we've already gone down about, say, 5% or so. And again, a lot of people, and I posted this on my Twitter. There's a lot of traders out there that if you follow them on Twitter or YouTube, they play off your emotions. So when Bitcoin goes down slightly, a few percentage points, they just scream it's going to, say, $3,000 or $6,000. But these are also the same people that when Bitcoin goes up 5 or 6%, they're screaming it's going to, $50,000 in the short term. I feel like they're just playing on your emotions. It's just noise, and I would recommend that you filter that out. Don't let these people cloud your judgment, because they're essentially just trying to get your clicks, your views, likes, and your follow. So that's primarily, I think, what their motivation is, and you'll see them flip-flop their position essentially every other day. And I would just recommend trying to stay level-headed and see the market for what it is, and look at the bigger picture, and don't get focused on what some random person is saying when they're changing their mind every other day. I just think that's some decent advice. But again, let's keep looking at this, because the last time we actually printed a golden cross in the last market cycle, we had 2 golden crosses, and in our current market cycle, we are about to print our second golden cross. But you can see that after we printed the golden cross, we've talked about transitioning to the 20-week moving average. Currently, we're looking at the 50-day and the 200-day. You can see that after this golden cross, right after it, Bitcoin did drop down, and it actually dropped down to that 50-day moving average. Now, we also know that it essentially shifted gears to that 20-week moving average over the long term. But you can see that this 50-day moving average is where ultimately it came down to initially. So what would that mean in our case? If we were to do the same thing, we're not saying we would do the same thing, but if we were. So, okay, let's remove this. So you can see that, okay, we're about to print this golden cross, and the 50-day moving average is currently at $8,700. Now let's just have a little bit of flexibility here, and say that we're going to continue up, maybe something like that, and we see this trend line probably start to peel upwards a little bit. Clearly, I did not draw those perfectly. But you get the idea. Whoops, you get the idea. So essentially, we're looking to see this golden cross, and it's possible that if we were to do what we did last time, we would see something where we might revisit this this moving average, and it might it might not happen immediately. It might happen a few days later, because if you go back to 2015. After we had that golden cross back in 2015, you can see, so after the golden cross, we had our golden cross on October 15th, which corresponded to right here. So, or sorry, October, so October, not 15th, October 26th. So around this point right here. So if we were to take a measured move from that, from this golden cross to where the price was right here, and we go upwards, then actually Bitcoin went up another 70% from there. I don't think Bitcoin's about to go to $17,000 in the next few days. But you can see because we've also shown in past videos how the volatility is reducing, and our overall returns are diminishing, but we can still see decent returns. So it did move up from October 26th to November 1st. So basically over the course of a week, it went up another 70% before retracing down to the 50-day moving average, and it took it a little while to get there. So it retraced to the 50-day moving average over the course of around 3 weeks or so, and it went down 40%. So just looking back where we currently are, you can see that if we were to continue to see a move upwards, we could still come back down to the 50-day, sometime later in the first quarter or something, and it still could theoretically be over $10,000 when that might occur. But anyways, golden crosses typically are fundamentally good signs for the market. It's possible that it's still just an accumulation time. Like back in 2015, we had a golden cross and then a death cross, and the second golden cross is when we really saw our momentum take off. And currently we are about to print our second golden cross. Now, clearly that does not mean that we have to be off to the races with Bitcoin, because if you go back to the first market cycle of Bitcoin, and let me actually just go ahead and do that, because I don't want to keep scrolling back and forth. So if we go back to, say, let's look at the whole thing and go back to, this is a monthly, so let's go to a daily time frame. Oh, I guess I need to scroll. So we're going to look at a daily time frame, and we're going to go all the way back to around, say, 2012 in that time period, and that was when really when Bitcoin really got moving. So you can see in that first accumulation phase back in 2012, we only had one golden cross before we saw these intense and amazing gains. And then in 2015, we saw two golden crosses. So clearly that does not mean that we have to see two golden crosses. It's possible that we see another death cross and then a third golden cross before we really pick up into the bull market. And for those wondering, what I'm using to confirm the kickoff of the bull market, many of you guys know it's just the 20-week moving average. So if we just show that, some people have a hard time, I think, getting TradingView up on their machine. So if we were to just look at the 20-week, you can see that it's actually turning up right where the 50-week is turning up, or right where the 50-week is coming up. So we're going to be testing this 20-week at some point in the next few months. It's currently sitting at around $8,300. But with recent price movement, we're going to see this start to curl upwards and potentially push into the 9,000s. So we will test this moving average again, and when we do test it, that is when I think a lot of eyes are going to be on Bitcoin, because if it holds it as support, then we look back to the last market cycle. We know that was what ultimately led to the bull run. If we do what we did last time and say, oh, just kidding, we're going to kick the can down the road, then be prepared for that. And it's essentially just going to be waiting longer and longer for these market cycles to play out. So I'm not trying to say that has to happen. It's not like we have to see another, or it's not like we have to hold the 20-week moving average this time. And it also doesn't mean that we won't hold it either. We'll just have to wait and see. And some of you might be frustrated by that, because you might want me to say what exactly I think is going to happen, and I don't want to mislead people. I'm not a day trader. I look at these macro level moves and try to plan accordingly. So like I said, I will be looking at the 20-week moving average whenever we get back down to it. And if we can hold that as support for a few months, then I think the bull market is going to be in full swing. And keep an eye on the fact that we are about to print this golden cross. historically, like I said, these are fundamental shifts in the market, uh, and we might really be just getting started. I mean, if you were to scroll out on this entire asset, for the entire history, you can see that what Bitcoin's currently doing, it's so small. I mean, it's like you can hardly even notice this recent bullish momentum. I mean, look at where we've come from. If you take a move from just back here and say, I mean, let's go from, well, let's not go from there. Let's go from, say, like this first candle all the way out to say this low that we saw back in December of 2019. I mean, that's a move of 1 million, or sorry, 11,950,961%. That's incredible to think about. And these short-term moves that everyone gets so worked up over, you see it go down 5% one day and it's the end of the world. It's just funny how it's so easy to react to these moves and get distracted from the longer term picture of Bitcoin. So what I would sit at, for me, what I'm doing, if you're curious, I haven't. I'm basically just. I'll be looking to see what happens with the golden cross. If we start to really move up in the next few days, then it's likely that the risk indicator will be printing above a zero point 0.5, and then it might be time to sell a portion of Bitcoin. Maybe 10% or something, in the hopes that if it keeps going up, we'll keep selling, and if it goes down, we'll reinvest the profits. And on the other hand, if it drops and we go into a lower risk level, then it might be time to start dollar cost averaging your buys even more, if the risk does go down, because the risk right now is close enough to zero point 0.5 where it's still technically in this moderate investment strategy of buying, but it's among the higher levels of risk that you want to be buying at. Really, you want to be buying when the risk is less than, if you can, like 0.2, 0.3, which a lot of us were buying at that time. And even if you bought recently, or even if you bought in, say, January of 2019, December of 2019, you would have gotten in at a really good level. So my voice is starting to leave me a little bit, but I hope this is informative for everyone. And I just wanted to show with Ethereum kind of some similar stuff. I mean, you can see that it just had a golden cross, and right when it had the golden cross, it had this small candle down. But still, the upward momentum is still intact. It's not like anything has been broken. I mean, even if the candle were to come all the way down to even, say, $220 or something, I mean, or lower, we could still say that we're still in this upward trend, and that the golden cross is historically a good momentum shift in the market. And really, you can see that Ethereum looks almost identical to Bitcoin. If you go back to 2015, for Bitcoin, and you can see that we had that golden cross and death cross and golden cross in this region. And if you look at it for Ethereum, it basically looks like the same exact thing, just offset by a few years, because you can see here we had this golden cross, death cross, golden cross, and then off to the races. And then here with Ethereum, golden cross, death cross, and then this other golden cross. And you can also see that historically, I've analyzed this angle as well. We're coming in at a much steeper angle here than we did last time, and it's similar to Bitcoin's cycle. If you look, this first move, it was really more of an accumulation, but the second move was a little bit sharper in its crossover, and so I would consider that, in terms of maybe Ethereum is emulating what Bitcoin did, and having this golden cross is a really good sign for what's about to come. But I do want to say, again, with this golden cross back in April of 2019 for Ethereum, it then did drop down to the 50-day moving average. And then when we had But you can see that even though it dropped down, the upward movement was still intact. Here we had a death cross in September, and right after having a death cross, Ethereum went from like 160 up to 220, so it went up. So it might have faked a lot of people out. A lot of people got liquidated, but still the downward momentum was still intact. So even if you see a candle come down, it might not happen right away, but at some point, we will see a correction before continuing upward. It doesn't mean that the rally is over. It just means it's a short-term correction. We're going to find support and hopefully keep on moving up and keep this uptrend intact based on the golden cross occurring. So I hope this is informative for everyone. I do want to make one other or a couple other announcements. So there is someone impersonating me. So if you get an email from someone impersonating me, just ignore it. I won't email you first. You can reach out to me on my website, intothecryptoverse.com. But if someone's emailing you on Gmail from a Gmail account, it's not me. So just assume that's not me and disregard it, report it as spam, and move on. And again, if you guys want to follow the risk metric and some other metrics in terms of dollar cost averaging your buys and dollar cost averaging your sells, whether it's statically or dynamically, or you just want to ask me questions more frequently, we do have a private Telegram channel, and just go to patreon.com/intothecryptoverse. It's in the description below. If you want to be a part of that smaller community where we talk more candidly about things and where we really see things headed, then check out the Patreon channel, and I will send you a link to that group. That will wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.